Muy bien. Estamos listos para iniciar. Well, we're ready to start. um, as you were mentioning, I think you have a recapped class, right? Where they've helped you to go through all the Greek one. Uh, that was what you learned in 2024. Now you're, I guess, in Greek 2. This is the second part of the Greek year. And I think you started a new chapter this week, which would be chapter 21. That would be the imperfect indicative. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So, what do you remember about the imperfect indicative?
I remember that it has, oh, here we go. It has, well, I'll start out simple. It's kind of easy to recognize because it has the epsilon out there in front most of the time.
Hmm.
There might be some changes, of course, but it's imperfect in the sense that it is a continuous action that happened in the past.
Hmm.
I think that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that still has like ramifications of what's
Exactly.
going on. Like I think Dave brought up like it is finished, but it still has ramifications going on.
Yeah, you're correct. Imperfect indicative is a verb that describes an action that happened in the past, while it is imperfective, right? Which means is
Right.
continuous, an action that is continuous. You will realize that there is no like a past tense specifically like we have it in Spanish or English. We will have the imperfect and the aorist. So the difference between them is that the aorist that describe a perfective action that also occurs usually in the past. What they say is that
Mm.
the aorist will not tell you that it's continuous, although it doesn't mean that it was one time either. Uh, the aorist tense will tell you something happened. It doesn't tell you how long it was in action, but it's perfective. While this, the imperfective indicative, will mean always that is an action that it's ongoing or that was ongoing in the past. So I think you're right. The imperfect indicative will have an augment. Do you remember what is an augment?
Oh, that's the. I don't remember like the technical definition, but I think that's the beginning of the
Yeah,
word where you
the
have
epsilon.
epsilon or the
Yeah,
eta at times.
yeah, you're right.
Okay.
So you will add, and that's the way how you will easily recognize that is an imperfect
Mm.
because you will have the epsilon, and sometimes when it starts with an alpha, as an example, that could length and become an ether, right?
Yeah.
So the principal parts of the imperfect active would be the augment, as you mentioned, usually an epsilon or sometimes an eta. Then the present tense stem, then the connecting vowels that are exactly the same ones you have been already using. So this is still easy. And then you will have the secondary active personal ending. Do you remember what does it means when I say secondary active personal ending?
Um, so you have like the primary, which is present, future, and middle passive, I think, and then the secondary was middle. No. Secondary was aorist and imperfect, I think, or secondary
Mhm.
tenses. All right.
Yes, you're right. You might remember on
Is
they
it
call it
plural as
this sheet.
well?
You might remember this square.
Yes. Yeah.
So these ones right here, yeah, will be the secondary, even um, active or middle passive. If you have an imperfect middle passive, all the only difference is you have to use the secondary middle passive personal ending, but you will have as well the augment. You will have the present tense theme. You will have the connecting vowel, and you will have the secondary middle passive personal ending. So that is it. The end of the class. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Is there anything that you find funny or interesting or hard to understand on this chapter?
I
I
think
know this is like very. Uh, every time we go through a different uh, tense is not that hard because we are already building on a base, right? We started with the basic introduction to the verbs, and then they have been showing us these different ways to build these different tenses. So all you add is the connecting vowel or the ending, or now the new element you have is the augment for the
hmm.
imperfect tense. But I can understand if you feel well, and let me know if it's not the case. But it's kind of a very same thing, just changing little things on the tenses, right?
Hmm.
And that's what makes the difference when you are translating or analyzing a text. When you are able to recognize those things, you will be able to say, "Oh, this is future because it includes a sigma in the middle of the verb." Or,
Hmm.
"Oh, this is."
Yeah.
So it's not like rocket science, but I can understand sometimes it can become confusing as well. But I would like to know what do you think?
I have a couple. Um, I had a couple questions from the homework, but before that, let me ask this. It was really confusing at first when, well, at least I speak for me, maybe Sam too. When we started the class Tuesday, in trying to understand aspect, and I wrote down in my book that the imperfect tense refers to time, generally in the past, but there are also other tenses that refer to the past. But then the imperfective is the kind of action, which imperfective means it'll be continuous, I believe.
Hmm.
And so, in my mind, as we go forward, and I try to put puzzle pieces together, and I think about aorist tense, and I
Hmm.
imagine there's a perfect tense. I'm trying to think ahead in the future as to what kind of aspect those will be. And is it kind of set in stone like it is? The imperfect is going to be imperfective. The aorist will always be this, and the perfect will always be, I guess, perfect. I don't know. I get maybe that's for a later chapter. But
I missed, sorry, I missed some of your information because this
oh
got stuck.
oh okay.
So I last thing I heard is about you started talking about the artist.
Oh okay. So it's it might be a question for a later chapter. So if that's the case, that's okay. But we're learning the imperfect, which has an imperfective aspect. But I'm
Hmm.
looking towards the future to aorist tense and perfect tense, and I'm trying to fill in the puzzle pieces will a perfect tense always be perfective? And will an aorist always be perfective or imperfective? Or in other words, the imperfect tense will always be imperfective. Will that be the case with other tenses as well? Or will there be some differences in the future?
Mm. Well, I know the imperfect tense is always imperfective. Uh, Honestly, I think artist is always perfect.
Okay.
Uh, I don't remember about the perfect tense, but I think it is also, yeah. I may be confused, but I think you're right. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think it has any implication for what we're studying right now. It was more like a curiosity question for the
yeah,
future. But I
yeah.
think,
Artist is never imperfective. It is always a perfective
okay.
aspect. About the perfect tense, uh, is that the other one you mentioned?
I think so, yeah. I think that's
Okay.
a tense, but I'm not sure.
Mm,
Oh, chapter 25. Perfect, not to be
yeah.
confused with the
Well,
perfective
let's
action.
check.
Perfect tense indicates a completed action whose effects are felt.
Yeah, so it would be always perfective because it cannot be continuous if it's completed.
Hmm.
An imperfective would be a continuous action, so it cannot be. So you cannot have a perfect imperfective,
Yeah, because
really.
so perfect is the action is done. There's nothing else to do with it.
Yeah,
Imperfective is there's more to, I guess, capitalize or do with it, if I'm understanding that.
Well,
So it's like
yep. Perfective and
means there's
imperfect.
still thing. Yeah.
But
Perfective means it's done. It's over
right.
with.
hmm,
And in
Right.
it's
the
finished.
perfect, okay.
Yeah.
So the perfect
Okay.
tense is different from the aorist tense, not in that they differ in the perfective because both are perfective, a completed action. But the aorist is generally past time tense, and then the perfect is present. I'm guessing. I think.
Well, it's. I think it would be good to wait a little bit because
Okay.
I don't want you to put in your mind artist is always past tense.
Okay.
Artist can be sometimes future tense.
Hmm.
So I would say don't think on the artist as always past tense. It can be sometimes future as well,
Okay.
and that is part of the interesting things on this language.
Hmm. Okay.
So
No.
yeah, I would say that the fact that it's perfective doesn't mean it's always in the past. It's just something that is complete, but sometimes artists could be in the future. So
Okay.
I don't have a artist fresh right now in my mind, but I think that's the next chapter. So we're close to it, and to answer those questions you might have about it. Yeah, second artist is chapter 22.
Okay. Cool.
So like
Well, well, that kind of answers it, so that helps. Um,
yeah,
and I do have. Let's
I
see.
think yeah, if you see oh no, where is it?
Ooh, there's a second
Yeah,
aorist.
if you see page 249, you can
Okay.
see the different uses that there is on the aorist, like constitutive, nomic, proleptic.
Okay.
There's some different uses you will find on it.
Okay.
Ingressive. So yes, it's gonna be interesting. Yeah,
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
now on the homework, there was a couple of them. I think the first one was number 2 on the parsing,
Mm-hmm.
and
Evaptitsis.
uh, for number 2,
Yeah.
the imperfect active indicative, and I put it was first person or third person, and it's singular or plural because the on ending is both
Oh no, you're in Heku no
hekuon.
Hekuon. Yeah, Hekuon. Yes. Once again, sorry.
The on ending is used twice, once in the singular paradigm and once in the plural. So
Hmm.
does context tell us? And for sake of homework, do we just put both?
Yes, you're correct. Because you just have the word. You don't know by context what is
Okay.
it. You only have the word that could be perfectly first or third person, right?
So it's the same way if it's like masculine or neuter, we wouldn't know unless we had the context. So we put masculine neuter
Yeah,
or something,
exactly.
something like that.
Yeah, that would be with a noun, right? But
Hmm.
because this is a verb, you play with the persons. So yes, I would put one slash, or you could divide the
Okay.
the box in some way, and in order that you understand, that's what it means. But yes, you can know it just by see the word. It can
Gotcha.
be it could be both because as you mentioned, the endings apply for both of them.
Gotcha.
Yes,
Um,
you're correct. It's first or third person, singular or plural, because you have both, right?
right.
And imperfect, active, indicative, uh, from akuo, right? The lexical form.
Right.
What
Here.
the translation do you got for that word? I mean, the
For
inflected meaning.
so for the if we take the first person singular, I was hearing, and
Mhm.
then the third person plural is they were hearing.
Yes, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, you're correct.
Now another one that was tricky was number 7
Number 7,
because that one didn't look familiar at all.
Exabalis.
Uh, oh, the one under it, uh,
A son.
a son.
Ah, you are not familiar with that?
Uh,
What do you got with that one? And I know why it can be tricky, but I want to figure out what happened with you.
what happened is that I didn't find it.
You didn't find it. Yeah, of course you didn't. And believe me, it happened to me all the time
Mm.
with those verbs. The reason is that you are when you go to page This would be. um, Let me see. Hmm. Yeah, page 233. No, 234.
234.
Yeah, and you will have your
Oh,
answer right there.
okay. There it is.
Amy. Yeah. Amy
With
is very tricky. So,
oh
Yeah, I looked in
uh,
the back and I just couldn't find it, and I was just like, okay, oh boy.
yeah. I would always, when I would always fail when it was about Amy, when I was taking this
Yeah,
class.
yeah.
So that's the reason. Amy is very irregular on its different uh, conjugations.
Hmm.
So that
Very
would
interesting.
be third person, plural, imperfect, active, indicative from Amy. So what would be the right inflected meaning of it?
They were.
They were, yeah, you are
The
correct.
funny thing is, and I mentioned this to Dave uh, probably last week because we were looking at me, and I, it just I was like, why are they all so different looking? Like all it, and of course the answer is, you just got to memorize it. I mean, it's the most famous verb that there is in the Bible apparently, and you just kind of got to know it. But I asked him, I said, why is it so irregular and moldable and different? And he said,
Mm.
there are probably some reasons for that, but we just learn it and we do it. But yeah, when I saw a son, there isn't a single letter that resembles me, and I would have never put that together.
Yeah, yeah, I know some words are tricky, and sometimes you can.
Amy seems to be very tricky though. Like
Yeah,
like every it's like almost without fail. Every time we learn something new, Amy changes all over again.
yeah. Well, aim is kind of to be in English, right? And English is kind of tricky with to be as well because you have different conjugations for the second person, the first person, even in plural and singular, they can change. So,
Yeah. I
Now,
guess the only trouble that I have with this is like, of course they don't have like past tense like we do as far as in English,
mm,
and so it's like, well, what kind of past tense are they talking about with like the imperfect and everything? So it's always like translation problems for me because I struggle with like translating it into like a sentence. And so that's kind of where
yeah,
I'm coming from with this. It's like for us it'd be so easy just to I guess easy for me just to put a past tense on something like, you know, I printed it off, and then it's all of a sudden it's past tense at that point. But now we're like, well, they were, but it's an imperfect past tense on it. So,
yeah.
or an imperfect tense on it. So,
So the good news is at this chapter you already know all the forms of Amy in the indicative mode. Wait for the non-indicative.
yeah, yeah. Wait for the thing to change again.
Yeah,
let me see.
yeah. Do y'all have any other question?
Uh, yeah, kinda. Um, well, maybe not.
No, sure.
Maybe not. There was one that I can't remember now. Uh, yeah, I think just trying to get it down and trying to see and understand, what's going on. Oh, let me ask this before I forget. For Asan, is it active or is it middle passive? Because I don't know if it's said in the book.
For a son,
For number seven, Asan, the one that we said came from ME, is that
oh,
going to be active or middle passive?
that is active.
It is active. Okay.
Yeah,
Will all of those be active for ME?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um,
Remember, the middle passive will use the secondary middle passive endings, and is not the case with Amy, so it's active.
okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Um, what about alpha on the warm up?
And the what?
On the warm up,
Warm up.
alpha.
Okay.
And my question is,
The
so
Baptist and obtuse.
uh-huh. So Altus is them.
Yes.
And I remember Dave saying something about, Sam, you may remember this, how it could also be there or something. You remember there's like a difference. Remember we were looking at some of the homework
Yeah.
and like, okay. So I'm just gonna go with them. And okay. But the baptizen sin, um I see the ending there is a N, which is imperfect, active, indicative, first or third person singular. Um,
Yes.
but my question is, how do you know whether it's he, she, or it? And I'm just going to guess it's going to be he or she was was baptizing them. He was baptizing her. He was baptizing them.
Or
Uh,
she, or he, or it. Right.
yeah. I guess
Well,
we could make a joke and say she. It wouldn't be a her, but I don't see an issue with that, but I don't know. Does the homework really care what you put there,
um,
or is it just a matter of whatever the context of a verse will tell you?
well, I think that the verb itself, it only tells you that is third person uh, singular, right?
Right.
Uh, it doesn't tell you it is he or she, but we know in the Bible always are men baptizing, right? We don't have any example of men, and well, you could put he or she was baptizing them, right? But definitely, if this is a phrase taken by from the Bible, I'm pretty sure the context would say it was he, like
Very.
perhaps John the Baptist or
Hmm.
Paul. I don't know. Looks pretty much like John the Baptist.
Yeah, that's probably
Yes.
true.
because that's that kind of phrase that would be describing his ministry.
Mm,
So yes, by just by the verb, is third person singular,
mm.
but it wouldn't make much sense about it because there is
Yeah, that'd be weird.
not a thing that baptize the
Yeah,
Robert 3000 plus baptizing
there we
people.
go.
the,
Um,
the
yeah, that
baptizer
makes sense.
2025
Yeah, yeah,
was baptizing them.
yeah. He, she,
So
it, them was baptized. Yeah. Um.
yeah, so I would put he,
Okay.
and that
Now.
would keep you sound in
Okay.
doctrine.
Sounds good. Uh, One thing I know that would help me is the vocab. Looking at that, I didn't know if Sam might have had something else that might have popped up to him,
No, go ahead.
but yeah, look, I think that oftentimes I'm getting the substance of the chapter, but
Hmm.
I think my hardest thing is recognizing the words because of trying to build up the vocab so that I can recall it. I think that was especially hard with this chapter. It was easy to notice whether it was imperfect or not with the epsilon or the eta, but uh, keying in on what the word was, I often had to go back to the back of the book to look it up.
Hmm. Get
Uh,
you.
I didn't know if we could look at the vocab together.
Yeah,
There was a
well,
way.
we could see some of the vocabulary soon, but I wanted to highlight some things about the
Yeah,
imperfect indicative first, if you're fine with that.
yeah.
Um, I always like to go to the exegetical insight, especially when it uh, has something to do with the chapter. Sometimes I realize it just says exegetical insight and says something that is not related to the chapter. So when it does, I like to pay attention to it. Walter Wessel, if that is the way how it should be pronounced, in page 224
Mhm.
show us how from Galatians 1:13 Paul says, "For you have heard of my previous way of life in Judaism, how intensely
Mhm.
I persecuted the church of God and tried to destroy it." Uh, uh, Apparently, the word ediakon here uh, expresses the repeated action of Paul in the past. So it can see how often he persecuted the church. So I think I was thinking, well, perhaps there are more ideas like this that we usually just see in past tense in our translations, right? Because
Mhm.
in English it says persecuted. When you see the Greek, you can see it was a continuous action. He was constantly looking for them and trying to persecute them.
Okay. Okay.
So that's interesting. So I wanted to go to different uh, examples of it. So I want to share some with you. I'll go to. I'm gonna share some examples that I added to Canva. You don't have to go to Canva since we are gonna do vocabulary. Um, so I will just share it. Mm, share screen. Okay. Mm-mm. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So the first one I want to share with you is here on John 1:1. When we go to John 1:1, we find one of your favorite verbs. Uh, which one is it?
Uh, ain or
Yeah, it
Logo.
is
I guess that's it. Yeah.
NRK. Uh,
Yeah. The third word ain. Yeah, I think. Or
so
is
what?
that?
Um, no, I think I marked it wrong just because it sounds the same. So I will correct it. Give
Oh,
me a
okay.
sec. Because well, now that it comes to the conversation, what would be that N?
Would it just be in?
Yeah, in.
I mean, we have to N here, NRK and hologos. So what would be the first N?
The first in would just be the word in.
Yes, it's a preposition. So
Yeah.
I mishighlighted because oh N. So I mark it, but the right one would be the second one with the ida. What verb is it?
Was, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, it is the
Was.
Amy, right? That's Amy in the imperfect indicative.
Okay. Okay.
So what is interesting about Amy here in the perfect indicative? Uh, if we remember, the imperfect indicative is an action that happens in the past but is continuous.
Yeah.
So when we see John 1:1 and we read in the beginning was the word, was is imperfect indicative. So it was a continuous action. It shows how he was being in the past. What
Okay. Okay.
brings a lot of theological information to us, but because it's not like uh,
Yeah,
he not
because
only
it's
was there, but the verb Amy in the imperfect tense is indicating the continuous existence of the Logos or Jesus in the past, which implies that the Word, who is Jesus, was continuously existing in the beginning. So he was not created at some
yeah.
point of time.
That's really cool because people say that he was created. So even with
Ye-
that Greek, because that's third singular, he, she, it was
Yes,
of
you know,
Amy.
Jehovah's Witnesses have this idea of, and he was a God, right?
Right.
Uh, and sometimes we try to prove Jesus' deity from uh, the Greek, and we go to that end. But if we go just since the beginning and we show this, hey, Greek shows that this is a continuous action. He continuously was in the beginning, and the only one who could do that is God. So you don't need even to say, and the word was God at the end of the verse because you can imply it from in archein hologos. In the beginning was the word. When you go to Greek, hey, just only God could be continuously in the beginning without being created. Only God is the only one. So
In
I think this is a theological insight very important about imperfect indicative that we can use to defend the truth about Jesus. Many times, people, as I mentioned, try to go about the article in the last part of the sentence in archein hologos, kai hologos and proston theon, kai theos and hologos. So some people would say, because of the position of the article, he is a God. That's Jehovah's Witnesses. We can know that when we studied the articles, that that position just put an emphasis on the deity or the um, this nature of God that Jesus had. But you can avoid that and just go to in arcane hologos. Hey, look this. This is imperfect indicative. Who else could be in a continuous way since the beginning? I mean, this is the beginning. So he was already there before creation. So
I have a
And
I
he
think,
question.
was he was continuously there. It wasn't there was a even before creation he was created. That word is a continuous there. He
mhm,
was continually there.
yeah. So there is no way for Jesus not being God if he's
That's
the
super
Logos.
cool. That's
Yeah.
super cool.
Andreas, is there a word for was that is perfective or within me, or is there another word that would designate just something that happened in the past?
Something
Um,
that happened.
Singular.
Well, I think there is another conjugation for that on Amy, which is
Oh goodness.
a
Okay.
good news for you. More memorization. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Okay. Oh, okay. See, I was reading 21.24, and it said, "You now know all the forms of a me in the indicative mood." So that there might be something different.
yeah, I guess I haven't been there in a while. You know, I took this class like 1 or 2 years ago,
True. Yeah.
but I think it is the case. Yeah, there is another way for Amy.
By the way, how does this work, Andreas? So you took the class, and then did Dave reach out to you to do? What I'm asking is are Sam and I going to become Greek teachers in the future?
No, not me. I'm not good enough.
Well, I don't know. That they've reached out to us because we love that class. Especially, you
Yeah.
know, Damien is a genius on this.
Mm.
He's so good on languages, and I love Greek too. And I enjoyed going through it and do things like this with John 1:1 and things like that. Uh, but I don't know if you would become teachers in the future as well. I think it
I don't
depends
know.
on
I don't know. I don't know if I.
Dave, and it depends on you. And I don't consider myself as a teacher itself. I consider myself like a companion or somebody who's trying to go with you on this way, right? Uh,
Mm.
I'm learning too, and we are all together on this. Perhaps I can have a little bit more of experience because I already went through this, but I still learning and discovering things on this journey.
Yeah, well, you're
Yeah.
helping us out a lot, and we appreciate it. Even
You're
just
very
this
welcome.
example here with John 1:1, that was really good.
Yes, and I have a couple more, so we can
Sure.
go through it if you want.
Yeah, let's do it.
Like here we have Luke 24:32, which would one of you like to read it, and the other one to bring the English version of it.
I'll read the Greek, and we'll let Samuel translate the sentence. Uh,
Okay.
uh, Kai altoi epon pros ang, angalus
Mm-mm.
uxi he cardia hemon Kaomene ein in Hemin hos el elale or elali Hemin and te hodo hado ho, hado. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think uh, the right way to read this one,
Uh-huh.
oh, is not Angelus, it's Allelus, if I'm not wrong,
Okay.
because there is not any uh, double gamma. Like Angelos would be a double gamma.
Oh, okay. Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. So the double lambda, is it just the L sound generally, or like a drawn out L, or
Yeah, I think it doesn't work like in double gamma. I mean, double gamma, one of them would become like a noon, right?
mm,
Like in Angelos. In
mm,
this case, would be like Allelus.
okay. So like in the word for balo, and then there's balo for
Mm-hmm.
with
Yeah,
two lambdas. Okay. It sounds
yeah.
okay, that makes sense.
Okay. So what does it says in English?
Oh, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Um, they
We
said
forgive
to
you.
one another, "We, we're not, were not our hearts burning within us while he was speaking to us on the road, while he was explaining the scriptures to us."
Okay. So you will realize that the word kaiomene and those two words are very interesting. You can guess what verb tense is it, right?
For for the in,
For the ain.
Yeah,
the imperfect,
yeah.
active indicative.
Yes, you're right. From Amy, right?
Yeah, it's that third singular again. He,
So,
she, it was.
so kaiomene en would be translated as was burning, which shows the continual action during the conversation. So while Jesus was talking to them continuously, these words of Jesus were burning these disciples' hearts. So it's as Jesus was talking, this burning on their hearts, what was continuously happening. You know, like the word of Jesus was continuously having an effect on them while they were uh, listening to him. So I think this is
Okay.
a nice idea for a sermon. And well, what is Jesus's words doing in your hearts? It's something that you just hear and produces something and that stops, or is something that continuously is born in your heart. You feel the effect of the words of Jesus. Can you recognize your shepherd and that produce something in you, right? So
Mm,
that was
Well,
another of the
it's continually burning. When you talk about doing a sermon, I mean, isn't it? It's like also, is it still burning within you right now?
mm-hmm.
Like what Jeremiah talks about, I have this fire burning within me.
oh yeah, yeah, very good,
Let me. Can I ask
very
this?
good.
Does if there is a So if there's a imperfect active indicative, just a normal verb in the imperfect tense, is it always necessary to have ain, which just means was, because was is already in the sentence, or is this maybe I'm misinterpreting? So ain is like just its standalone word and isn't. Yeah, maybe that's what I'm
What
trying to say.
what is the question again? Sorry.
Sure. So the word was is generally already in like another verb, like he was being baptized or he was baptizing. The word was is already
Hmm.
there. And so when I saw ain, I was thinking, well, why do you need another ain? But the
Hmm.
use for the word ain is not being accompanied with some action, as far as I know. Maybe it was. And if so, why is it doubled up? Is that for emphasis, or is it its own, like, in the beginning was the word? It's not in the beginning. He was drinking the word. Nothing. There's no verb. That is the verb. But
Yeah, that's the verb itself.
right,
Well,
yeah,
um, I think the verb to be is sometimes helping to have that imperfect uh, uh, emphasis, right? Uh,
mhm.
but I
Okay,
wouldn't say all the time you will have to have Amy there because, as you mentioned in the homework, right? The word, what was it? The phrase, um, "Ebaptisen tous." He was baptizing them. That there is not any Amy there, and you can come to the same conclusion.
gotcha.
So, yeah, so I would say sometimes it would help, but it's not always the case.
Okay,
Is it what you asked?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So I want to see another example here in Acts 18:4. Would you like to read it? Same thing, one in English and the other in Greek.
Uh,
I'll take the Greek.
Okay.
Although, is that a
yeah, we
the
don't learn
triangle? Is that
capitals
a
here. Delta, I
yeah?
guess.
Is that a delta?
Maybe that's my guess.
Yeah, that's a delta. That's
Let's go.
uppercase is how you call them.
Yeah,
Mayúsculas.
yeah. We've only been doing like lowercase unless it's a dialegetto.
Hmm.
No,
Dialegato.
dialegetto. D N K synagogue
Hmm.
kata or
Hmm.
kata pan sabaton.
Hmm. Sabaton. Yeah. So if you study this in the Greek, you will realize that. Well, what does the English version says?
I think Jake might be frozen.
Hmm?
I've got it pulled up. I think Jake is frozen.
Oh
Uh
yeah.
I can read it. Acts 18:4. It says,
Yes.
and he was reasoning in the synagogue every Sabbath and trying to persuade the Jews or trying to persuade Jews and Greeks.
Hmm. Well, I think the English brings that idea of continuous action, which is not, I think, in the Spanish. Let me check. That would be. mm, uh, yes, we lost Jake.
Yeah, I just sent him a text.
18:4. Yeah, in Spanish says, y discutía en la sinagoga todos los días de reposo. And I think the New King James says, and he reasoned in the synagogue every Sabbath. So what version did you read?
Mine is the New American Standard, but I can pull up. You said New King
Well,
James?
well, New King James says, and he reasoned. But
Yeah.
then the New American Standard is better because it translated as a continuous action. So it has a better translation of it.
Yeah, the New American Standard says, and he was reasoning.
He was reasoning. That's how you should translate the imperfect indicative, right?
Because it's
So
a continuous thing.
yeah, yeah. So well, you can say in English with the New King James as in the Spanish version, you cannot find that, which is very important because the alleghetto, which would be was reasoning, indicates that Paul was in a continuous engagement and effort over the time to show the gospel. It was not something uh, that only took place for a while and then he left. No, he was continuously there, and this reasoning shows like it was not only continuous but very intensive. If you want to put some spirit on that idea, right? If you want to bring it alive, you can see uh, how Paul was doing a great effort to discuss with them the truth of the gospel.
Yeah, that's so cool because it's not that he just reasoned and he was done with it. He was continually reasoning. He was continually arguing,
Mhm.
not arguing like we would use it, but I mean reasoning with them.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with, well, and that's what you're bringing up. It's the same thing with what we just learned as far as like he was continually in the beginning. And this is
Mhm.
a continuation in the gospel, which I guess as far as like me and like Christianity wise, as far as learning this, it's like sometimes it takes a continuation of reasoning to help people
Mhm.
understand the gospel. It's not just a he reasoned and they got it. It's a Paul was continually doing it.
Mhm. Yes. Jay, we were talking about how the New American Standard Version does a better translation of this Acts 18:4 than the New King James because the New American Standard says, and he was reasoning, and the New King James says, and he reasoned in the synagogue. So he just put it
Mm,
as past tense. But we were talking about how imperfect indicative here shows the continuous effort of Paul to bring the gospel, right?
I like that. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the New American Standard, so that's really cool. So he was reasoning rather than he reasoned.
Hmm.
Shows it continuous. Yeah, that's cool.
Yes. So, what is
I,
your next class?
we actually don't have one today. I don't
Okay.
think, unless Sam does. Sam, do you have a class to no?
Okay.
Sam, you're only taking this one and preacher in his work or something like that.
Oh,
And
I love that
Eddie's.
class. It was one of my favorite ones.
Uh,
Yeah, Neil Pollard's class is really good.
Hmm.
Only second to when Andreas teaches Greek.
Ah,
uh,
I didn't think so.
No, but I really like this right here because like I said, you see more than just what the English pulls out. You get to see this continuation, and stuff like this makes me want to study Greek more. I get into like, imperfect, indicative, all these kind of things, and it's very confusing at times. But then you see this kind of stuff, and it's like, man, you get to see more of what God is trying to show. Like I said, I'm
Yes,
not saying like the New King James is a bad translation or anything, or like New American Standard is above or anything like that, because they're all just translating, this from, because like I said, we have like reasoned or reasoning, these are just different tenses in our language as far as English, but like for them it was this continuation. It really shows that side of it. Um
mhm.
Especially with, I thought it was so cool what you brought up with John 1:1. I think that is just, I mean, even in the Greek itself, you can just show with that continuation side of it. Hey, this is more than just he was there at the beginning.
Yes, yes. That's what I love from these studies. They help you to understand truths that you can find in the Bible and understand better uh, what the Holy Spirit was trying to tell us when this was written, right?
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course, translations are good, and they made a great effort to bring us Bible into our language. But you can see sometimes you can go and see something else, and sometimes this help you to understand as well. Well, I now understand why this version of the Bible can be perhaps something that I would prefer over this, because this kind of verses and these tenses are translated like this. So sometimes when you want to show something, the knowledge of Greek you have will help you to choose a better translation. I mean, there is not inspired translation, but you can find better translations than others, right? So when you have some knowledge in Greek, you can understand why some are better than other ones. Some people just repeat, well, I like this version because it's better than the other one. Okay, why is better? Well, the translation and tenses is more helpful on this one than the other one that is older or newer, whatever.
I pulled up that the New King James, and it, yeah, and he reasoned in the synagogues. And I guess you could look at that like he was doing more, but like he was reasoning just stands out more with what
Hmm.
that imperfect is showing.
Yes, sir. So I want to show you the last one, and I will uh, let you go free to enjoy your no class time, right? That is Luke 15:20. Wanna rate it?
Go ahead, Jake. Read the Greek this time.
Okay. Eti de altu macron apexontos apexontos a eden auton ho pat, pater altu kai es, esplag es, esplag esplagniste esplag That's a tough one. Kai Dramon, Pepsin, Epi, Ton, Traxalon, Traxalon, Altu, Kai, Catefi, Catefile, Li, or Le, Catefile, Alton.
Mm.
I'm sure I
So,
missed a few of them in there. I'm sure.
Hey,
um,
that was hey to me. It was all Greek, so you're good.
Oh yeah, thank you, thank you.
I liked it. I couldn't
Greek
have read it any
scholars,
better.
you are.
Yeah.
Well, I'm confused right now because I don't know if there are different. Uh, well, of course, there are different Greek versions also as well, right? So here we have kathe, kathephilei and imperfect indicative, but there are also I also open an interlineal here on my phone, but on that interlineal is not kathephile, is kathephilesen,
Yeah,
which is
that's what mine has in logos.
yeah, which is an aorist, is not imperfect indicative.
Mm.
So perhaps I uh, need to check better uh, on different manuscripts. But anyway, if it is the case that this would match better on imperfect indicative, the idea is, with the how do you call the prodigal son
Hmm.
Yeah,
when he comes back and the father receives him, and I think the English version says kissed him.
yeah. It says, so he got up and came to his father, but while he was a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion for him and ran and embraced him and kissed him.
Yes. So if there are some manuscripts that they have this on aorist, that translation is right. But if we were translating one that has it on imperfect indicative, uh, a better translation of it would be was kissing him.
Yeah, so it would be he was kissing him.
Yeah, a continuous action. Like, hey, my son is here. Mwah, mwah, mwah. You are welcome. I love you. Right? That gives like it was not only one kiss. It was like a repetitive action that shows the rejoicing of this father.
Yeah,
But
Makes sense.
yeah. So, well, there is how they call it criticism, textual criticism. So it would be another homework, perhaps for me, not for you, to go and check why this variation is here. So perhaps I'm gonna do something of it, and I would let you know next time because it's very interesting. I love textual criticism as well because uh, you can see also a lot of things in Greek and about the Bible translation when you go through it. But that's for another session. I really appreciate your time, brothers. I enjoy a lot to be with you.
no,
Hopefully, next time.
we thank you, man.
Uh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. As I told you, we are growing together. This is a great opportunity to find something useful. I mean, Greek is always useful, but I feel like when we bring these kind of examples, it's more application, right, of the
Yeah,
knowledge than just, hey, you put the augment, you put the connection, you put this. I love this kind of exercises. So perhaps we will do some more in the future.
yeah. I really like this. This is really good.
So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a blessed weekend. Appreciate it a
You,
lot.
Y'all too. Appreciate you, Andres. And
yeah,
you too,
thank
sir.
you, Andres. I appreciate you too, Jake. All right,
All
I'll see
right.
you guys later.
All right. Take
See,
care.
see you later, and use some sunscreen and shorts because
Yeah, it's
it's very
very
hot up
hot
there.
down there.
Yes.
Yeah.
We do need some sunglasses because this snow is bright to look at. It is
Really
super bright.
That's
interesting.
right. Well,
All
I'll
right.
see
Well,
you
take
guys
care.
later.
We'll see you.
See you later.